Within history's hallowed halls, a decree was inscribed, the Emancipation Proclamation. It heralded a nascent era of liberty for those long fettered by the chains of servitude. The psychological wounds, however, were profound. This edict planted a delicate seed of hope in the barren grounds of oppression. The post-war Reconstruction wove the threads of equality into the Constitution, 14th and 15th Amendments securing the rights of African American citizens. Yet, the pendulum swing brought forth the darkness of Jim Crow laws, eclipsing the light of these newfound liberties, leaving a lingering taste of injustice in the air. In 1921, the Greenwood district of Tulsa, known as Black Wall Street, was obliterated. More than 800 were hospitalized, and as many as 6,000 black residents were interned. Official records stated 36 dead, but later assessments estimated deaths ranging from 75 to 300, underscoring the massacre's devastating impact on the community. About 10,000 black people were left homeless, and the cost of the property damage amounted to more than $1.5 million in real estate and $750,000 in personal property, equivalent to $38.43 million in 2023. By the end of 1922, most of the residents' homes had been rebuilt, but the city and real estate companies refused to compensate them. Many survivors left Tulsa, while residents who chose to stay in the city, regardless of race, largely kept silent about the terror, violence, and resulting losses for decades. The massacre was largely omitted from local, state, and national histories for years. In 1996, 75 years after the massacre, a bipartisan group in the state legislature authorized the formation of the Oklahoma Commission to study the Tulsa race riot of 1921. The commission's final report, published in 2001, states that the city had conspired with the racist mob. It recommended a program of reparations to survivors and their descendants. The Trail of Tears marked the forced relocation of the Cherokee and other tribes, with an estimated 100,000 indigenous people displaced and 15,000 perishing. This era also saw the U.S. government's attempt to civilize Native Americans through boarding schools, where children were stripped of their culture and language in an effort to assimilate them into white society. Native peoples were encouraged to adopt European customs. First, they were forced to convert to Christianity and abandon traditional religious practices. They were also required to learn to speak and read English, although there was interest in creating a writing and printing system for a few native languages, especially Cherokee, exemplified by Sequoyah's Cherokee syllabary. The Native Americans also had to adopt settler values, such as monogamous marriage and abandon non-marital sex. Finally, they had to accept the concept of individual ownership of land and other property, including in some instances, African people as slaves. Native peoples were not inclusively counted by the U.S. Census until the 1930 census, and there were no separate schedules for Native peoples living on reservation lands. Prior to 1960, the decennial census was collected through enumerators, census workers who went out in person to collect information directly. The enumerators were often the individuals who determined the census respondent's race, and these decisions were made through observation or assumption. Unfortunately for American Indian and Alaska Native peoples, this method of recording race information resulted in frequent racial misclassification of Native persons. However, the complexity of racial misclassification with enumerators was not as simple as enumerators merely being unaware of indigenous persons and households. Even in the event of the knowledge, enumerators would often only record the household or person as American Indian or Alaska Native if the respondent was an enrolled member of a tribe or recognized as a member of a Native community. The ledger of the mind is inscribed with the echoes of past afflictions. The lashes bite, the auction blocks gavel, the burden of systemic inequity. Resilience, however, flourishes, a lineage of perseverance murmuring, "We persist, we ascend." The communal consciousness traverses history's labyrinth, testifying through both anguish and victory. The specter of Willie Lynch's doctrine, though widely debunked as a historical document, symbolizes the enduring psychological tactics employed to sow discord and maintain control over enslaved people. His purported methods of exploiting differences and fostering distrust among slaves are emblematic of the long-lasting psychological scars that continue to influence African American communities. He briefly notes the violent methods of handling unruly slaves. Lynching, though the term is not used, is inefficient and counterproductive. Instead, he suggests that they adopt his method, which consists of exploiting differences such as age and skin color in order to pit slaves against each other. This method, he assures his hosts, will control the slaves for at least 300 years. Identities are sculpted by labels. African American, a term of the present, yet it veils the rich identity of indigenous and ancestral legacies. Envision the psychological metamorphosis, the reclamation of heritage, the melding of dual legacies. The reflection now shows a narrative of resilience and fortitude. Our heritage, inscribed in the ethos, navigates our path. The unfollowed rabbit beckons you to delve into the annals of history, to celebrate the indomitable spirit and the soul that unites. In concert, we reshape stories, embroidering the forgotten and hidden truths before our time.